this expected offensive in and around Rafah. Will it be enough, though, to convince Israel to back down?
Well, that remains to be seen. Israel intends on going ahead with this operation, and we don't see it backing down. And I think it remains to be seen whether the U.S. will be successful in trying to convince Israel to at least come up with a plan to reduce or take into consideration the high casualty toll that might come out of this operation in Rafah, given that, Rafah houses now about 1 million Palestinian refugees who have fled from other parts of Gaza into that border area. And it is the last refuge. So what the countries are saying, including the U.S., is that there is nowhere else for them to go because it is the last refuge there.
What about these talks then in Cairo? Israel has pulled out. They said the demands from Hamas, reportedly including the release of all prisoners held by Israel, the removal of all Israeli troops out of Gaza, that those are just not the kind of measures that Israel is prepared to take. Does that mean the collapse of these talks, or is this a play by Israel to get more leverage?
Could be, but it's not looking so good. Israel said that they were pulling out of these negotiations where the U.S., the Qataris, the Egyptians and Hamas leaders are in Cairo to try to come to a compromise over a ceasefire. Like you were saying, Israel's calling Hamas's demands as delusional. What Hamas wants is a ceasefire that would ultimately see the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza and the release of prisoners. But even the ceasefire, the prospect for that seems a bit distant. And like we discussed before, given Israel's intent to go ahead with the Rafah operation. Yeah.
Yes, and for regional security and tensions, the spotlight had for long been on what's happening with Hezbollah over on the Lebanese border. Are we at the tipping point now, given that it seems the fight between those two sides, Israel and Hezbollah, has stepped up in the last 12 hours or so?
It almost felt like we were at the tipping point yesterday. We saw the attack from Lebanon right into an Israeli town that's never been struck before, in an army base as well. And that was outside of the so-called rules of engagement that have really governed the trading of fire across the border. Israel responded with its fiercest strikes on Lebanon since October and since Hezbollah started attacking Israel. And so we saw 8 people killed in Lebanon, 1 person was killed in Israel. Tensions were running high yesterday, and Hezbollah hasn't claimed this attack, which is quite unusual, but it did come out of a territory controlled by Hezbollah. But the Israel response yesterday kind of gave Lebanon a glimpse of what a wider conflict on that border area would look like. Images coming out of Beirut just saw complete devastation in the areas where Israel struck. So a wider conflict would definitely be very devastating for Lebanon specifically.